Cheating in Magic is getting out of hand, and today we have a look at one of the most blatant cheats that I have ever seen. Unfortunately, cheating has been a part of Magic for as long as Magic has been around. In fact, cheating was so rampant during the early years of the game back in the 90s that many of the most famous players from that era ended up being outed as cheaters. It wasn't until pro player Chris Pikula, who 100% should be in the Hall of Fame, decided to make it his personal mission to stamp out cheating in competitive play and rally the community around the ideals of ethical play and outing cheaters that the norms of the community began to change. Well, now it's 2025. And Paper Pro Tours are back on the menu, and unfortunately it's almost like we're back in the 90s again. I could probably do an entire video on the topic of the Magic Judge program, but here's a quick TLDR of why we're in such a bad place right now as far as cheating is concerned. Back in 2015 and 2016, Magic judges filed lawsuits against Wizards, alleging that they should be treated as employees. Wizards didn't really like this, so they ended up removing themselves entirely from the judge program. Well, there were some steps in between. In October 2023, Wizards officially ended their partnership with the Judges Academy, the organization that was responsible for managing, testing, and organizing judges. During this same time period, we also lost access to the public list of players suspended for cheating, which allowed cheaters, even cheaters who had been banned for life in the past, to start playing the game again. We've even seen Magic's most infamous cheater, Alex Bertoncini, sort of return to playing Magic. The current system is straight up chaos. Independent organizations like Judges Foundry or the International Judge Program have tried to fill the judging void, but without support from Wizards, it's mostly a futile effort. Now it's the responsibility of individual tournament organizers in this ramshackled version of the Judge Program to try to keep cheaters from playing, if they even care to try. Without a central organization to track things, this means that a player can get DQ'd or banned for cheating at one tournament and simply move on to the next tournament if it's hosted by a different organizer, and keep right on playing. When you add all this together, it seems to have left cheaters feeling emboldened, because today we have one of the most blatant cheats that I have seen in many years. Remember Mike Long's infamous Bloom in the lap cheat from the 90s? Well, the state of competitive play is degraded so much that it seems like it might be back. But before we get to the cheat, a quick reminder, if you need any Magic cards, you can snag them from our sponsor Card Kingdom over at cardkingdom.com/MTGGoldfish. So today's match comes from the semifinals of a recent Nerd Rage Games 10K event. The match is between Sean Gallagher and Connor Pattison, and it was a backup feature match, so we jumped into it in Game 2, with the game nearing its end thanks to Gallagher's Azorius control deck being down to just 6 life against Pattison's Boris Prowess deck. We kick things off with Patterson having a single unknown card in hand, and also 2 basic planes on the battlefield, which is notable because Patterson only had 1 copy of planes registered in his deck list, which isn't the cheat we're focused on today, but is at least another example of the questions swirling around Pattison's play, and probably another example of cheating, and we'll wrap back around to this one in a minute. Cheat-wise, nothing really notable happens this turn.
Control on your left. Catching up to the board, looks like a temporary lockdown's got some stuff underneath it. We got an impending Overlord. It's about to come off. Ibiza has landed. Looks like we're moving to blocks here on the Heartfire Hero. Sean, though, at just 5 life, staring down a couple rock face villages out of the Boros build here from Connor Pattison.
But things start to heat up as we go to Connor's next turn. Watch as Connor starts to untap. We can pretty clearly see what is the corner of a card in sleeves that match the rest of his deck sitting on his lap. Also keep in mind that the face cam and overhead cam are mirrored, so if some of the movements look a little weird, that's why. This is already incredibly suspicious. There's no legitimate reason to have a card hiding in your lap during the top 8 of a competitive event, or really any time for that matter, but it keeps getting worse. Connor draws for his turn, and we get a quick glimpse of what looks like a Battlefield Forge, which matches the version that he played earlier in another feature match. While we only get a quick glimpse, the fact that Patterson moves to play the card as a land before pulling it back kind of reinforces that it is almost certainly a Battlefield Forge. It's hard to tell what his second card is. It's probably a Boros Charm, but it doesn't really matter at the moment. After deciding not to play the Battlefield Forge, Connor activates his utility land to put a counter on Heartfire Hero and pass passes. As his opponent takes their turn, we see some super sketchy behavior from Patterson. We see his hands go down under the table to his lap, where, remember, we saw the card hiding earlier, and after some fidgeting, he leans back in his chair awkwardly, crossing his arms before looking down at his hand.
Monstrous Rage could do it. There's a lot here, but when you're playing the red deck, it's, you don't have a lot of card selection to dig for that one last spell to push you over the top.
And this Boros deck has full-on 10 burn spells that can get the job done from here with Lightning Helix, Burst Lightning, and Boros Charm.
Connor draws for his turn, and we see the Card Eater was a slick shot show off. As he adds it to his hand, we get a glimpse of the other two cards he's holding, a Boros Charm and a Battlefield Forge, right? Well, not exactly. Somehow the Battlefield Forge is gone, replaced by an Uroboros Forge. Let's go back to the turn before with those suspicious movements. If we slow things down, and thanks to Lava Ox on Twitter for all the slow motion footage, we can actually see the cheat take place. Connor clearly takes a card from his hand and moves it under the table, while snagging the card from his lap to add to his hand. In this view, you can, for a brief second, actually see him grabbing the card on his lap. You can see the turquoise sleeve pop up for a minute. It's pretty obvious what's going on. To me, it seems pretty clear what happened. Connor hid an Uroboros Forge, perhaps his best sideboard card in his entire deck for the blue-white control matchup, in his lap, and then waited for the right moment to trade it for a useless land. While Patterson did end up getting DQ'd from the tournament after this match, it was because of the deck registration error of having two basic planes, rather than because of the blatant cheat of having a card in his lap. So what happens from here? Well, first, Patterson should be suspended from competitive play for a period of time, although as far as I know, there's no system for punishing cheaters anymore. What we really need is for Wizards to once again take up the responsibility for supporting judges and punishing cheaters, although unfortunately, it doesn't seem likely to happen. Sadly, with Wizards giving up the responsibility to enforce the rules and ensure fair gameplay, the onus once again falls to us, the players, just like back in the 90s. This doesn't mean we should be witch hunting. Magic is a hard game, and even the best of us are going to make mistakes, but it does mean being vigilant. It does mean setting community standards where cheating is unacceptable, and that if you cheat, you're no longer welcome in the community. Basically, we all need to be Chris Pakulas. Whether it's Mike Long hiding a cadaverous bloom in his lap 30 years ago, or Pattinson hiding an Uroboros Forge in his lap a couple of weeks ago, we all need to make it clear that cheating's not okay. It's not acceptable. It's not trying your hardest to win. It's wrong, and we, the Magic community, are not going to accept it. Maybe Wizards is okay with seeing their game overrun by cheaters, but we're not. Do you have ideas about how we can stamp out cheating in Magic? Have you run into any cheaters lately? Let me know about it in the comments. And if you're looking for even more Magic, make sure to check out the video about the most infamous cheaters to ever play the game. Or maybe the one about the deck that bored pros to death at the Pro Tour.